This is really all about bad optics. First off, the Justice for Ellie campaign is experiencing some bad optics. We've reported on the Amy Fenton situation up in Barrow. She's received intimidation from some who are probably supporters of JFE. This was reported in the national media as well. Mr. Tommy Robinson tried to latch onto the campaign, the Justice for Ellie campaign, and the Williams family, to their credit, told him to sling his hook. They told him where to go and they distanced themselves from him. However, Mr. Robinson did strike a couple of blows against their movement. Firstly, he let slip that he did not believe Ellie Williams's claims concerning grooming gangs. And secondly, this is more indirect, he attracted low-level characters towards the Justice for Ellie movement. I'd imagine this also acted as a catalyst for various groups on social media. I'm mainly thinking of Justice for Ellie Unfiltered, the unanswered questions, and its offshoot, Justice for Ellie Exposed. These groups may have had increased activity because of the involvement of Robinson and low-level characters who hang about with Robinson. They are critical of the Justice for Ellie campaign and they do question the narrative. They question Ellie Williams's narrative. The Justice for Ellie campaign could well do with a PR manager, a professional PR manager, ideally, who can help negotiate hurdles when it comes to public image and relations. There's another hurdle to circumnavigate. That's in the form of the controversial John Lawrence. He's attached himself onto the movement. He seems to involve his social life around going to various demos around the country. The JFE campaign need to disassociate themselves from Lawrence, Mr. Lawrence. They need to disavow him immediately. There's an article imploring them to do so, and to make sure he never sneaks into any more JFE demos ever again. Have a read of that article. It lists a few of the bad optics that hang around him. He's not exactly the type of person a sophisticated and respectable campaign would want to associate themselves with. He's got a load of baggage and now he's having a wily moment, a wily situation, offending people of the Orthodox community, and he's offending first generation Afro-Caribbean people.
They're calling me a Sibnat. I'm certainly not a Sibnat, me. Really, a first generation black person cannot lead this country. I don't want it. It'd have to be a couple of generations down, but it certainly won't be letting no Diane Abbott or David Lammy lead our country and as being first generation immigrants. No, because they're anti-white and they're anti-English, and I don't want them people leading the country. If our country becomes back to 90% white majority, I'll be fine with that. In the early 90s, it was over 95% white majority, and that was in the early 90s. I'm happy with 90%.
Raspect may want to offer him out in a debate. That'll be an interesting discussion. A discussion between Mr. Lawrence and Raspect. They both come from similar backgrounds. It'll be very interesting to listen to them dialogue. It's not just his comments about first generation Afro-Caribbean folk. Lawrence is very outspoken on a number of issues. He's a buddy of James Goddard. Raspect's already debated Mr. Goddard. Mr. Lawrence would like to have 90% or more of the UK to be of indigenous stock. So if anybody can get in touch with Raspect to propose this dialogue with Mr. Lawrence, that would be awfully handy. We are aware Raspect's having his own issues with the mainstream media. It appears the Daily Mail tried to do a bit of a hit piece on him, or a smear job on him and a group called FF4s. But this could be an ideal reintroduction back onto the scene for Raspect after that particular smear. So it could benefit him as well. It has to be noted there's not much left in the demo movements nowadays, as most of them have moved on with their lives, so folks like Mr. Lawrence have become the more senior people now. People like Mr. Goddard and Danny Tomo, they've moved on. Mr. Goddard's got a job nowadays, which is a good thing. Obviously. It means he's not scrounging around on the internet asking for patriots to pay his way. As for Danny Tomo, he left the Tommy camp. He's now focusing on family life as far as I'm aware. This is all after being taken for a mug publicly. At one point he was resorting to food banks. He was using food banks whilst Mr. Robinson was wining and dining in plush restaurants.